on that night, it was honestly like watching Neymar and Mbappe combined. He tore Diogo Dalot, who was the right back on that night. He tore him to pieces, and he tore Man United to pieces all night. Jordan Henderson was on the bench at the weekend, and I would suspect that he'll probably come back into the team. I can't imagine.
No!
What was the odds on yours, Julian?
3-1.
Pathetic. Right, here's what's going for. Hello everyone and welcome back to Who Scored, powered by Ladbrokes. This is Baller and we are going to be talking about our five-a-side teams. But today we're going to be previewing Liverpool and Villarreal, and we've got Julen Laurens joining myself and Josh. But before we dive into this week's big talking points, there's 4 simple steps that we need you lot to all do to get involved in Ladbrokes five-a-side. You've got to pick a formation. You need to pick 5 players. It's called five-a-side for a reason. You need to select the stats and then you enter your team, and it's that easy, and it requires a minimum bet of £1, and you have the chance to win a share of £1,000 in our exclusive cash league. We're going to be running through where we think the value lies, and actually I'm disappointed in these lads because there's some cowardly picks in here, but luckily I'm bringing you some big bets, so you need to be looking at that a little bit later on. But let's get into it, shall we? Julian, Villarreal, practice run potentially this week for Liverpool against Everton, a team that played on the counter. Are we expecting to see Emery's men try that as a tactic, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what I found fascinating about this Villarreal team, and I think Unai deserves a lot of credit for it, is the versatility, because we saw against Juventus in the 2 legs and against Bayern in the 2 legs as well. 2 very different teams that can play different formation or certainly different ways. They're happy to sit back and hit you on the counter, and they've got players for that in Danjuma, for example, and Chukwueze. They can also play with the ball, and they play well. Parejo is a wonderful sort of deep-lying playmaker, if you want, and I find it fascinating that they have those players and can play so many different ways. They've got a lot of intelligent players. They're solid. They're very well drilled by Emery, and he clearly has a clear plan of what he wants them to do depending on who they face. So I don't think this is a given for Liverpool. Of course, they're hugely favourite, but certainly I think they would have taken maybe a bit of inspiration, certainly from the first half or the first hour from the Everton game. Not so much from the United game a few days before, because that's the recipe for disaster. But I think if you're Emery, you're thinking, okay, we have frustrated teams before, like Bayern Munich, for example, who in a way have a similar firepower going forward than Liverpool. Not as good, but you would think quite similar. But then we can also play when we get the ball. And certainly, I think they will be looking at the high defensive line from Liverpool and thinking, do you know what, we can also exploit that.
What Everton lacked, they defended really well for the first hour or so, but I think what they really lacked was the composure going forward. Anthony Gordon gave Trent Alexander-Arnold hell at times down the Everton left-hand side, but what they really lacked was any sort of cutting edge or any sort of clinical play in the final third. But obviously Villarreal will have that, and as Julian touched on, they have the ball-playing midfielders as well, that they can string passes together when they are under pressure, and to break free they're going to need pinpoint passes over the right-hand side of Liverpool's defence, and that's when the likes of Danjuma, who I'm sure we'll come on to soon, will come into play.
Yeah, I thought at the weekend, Gordon, no, let's be honest, this isn't the should he have had a penalty show, but he should have had a penalty, let's be real with ourselves. Danjuma was what I was going to talk about next. Is he the big threat to look out for? His story is fascinating, isn't it, Julian?
Yeah, it's incredible. And I spoke to him today. We did a big interview for ESPN. The story of his life, full stop. He moved to Nigeria, to the Netherlands when he was really young. He had a really, really tough upbringing. They didn't have any money. They didn't have nothing, not much. At times, he was even homeless. And even after that, the football career and the football path, going through Belgium, ended up with Bournemouth, and then in the Championship, deciding to stay in the Championship, to have a really good season, to then have as many offers as possible after that, and pick Villarreal of all those offers. I mean, it's fascinating. He's a great guy, and I think the talent is certainly underrated, and his talent is incredible. And you're right, he's the main threat, because if you look at what Gordon did to Trent, to a certain extent, even when City played Liverpool, and how much City almost forced onto their left-hand side and the Liverpool right-hand side to play in behind Trent, to have 2v1s against Trent, because you know that as much as Salah can defend, and he does it, and he does it really well, but there's times where, he doesn't always do it. So I think that certainly, like Josh said, it would be one of the key battles in that game. But Danjuma, for sure, whether he plays as a lone striker, because we know Gerard Moreno might not play. So it looks like he's not going to play, or Danjuma as a second striker, Danjuma on the left-hand side, for example, I think would be a very clever option from Emery. So it'd be very interesting to see where Danjuma plays. He's very looking forward to coming back to England. He says the Premier League is amazing and Liverpool are fantastic, but he also says we are so confident because of the path that we've had so far up to the semi-final where no one expected us to be here. And look what we did in the group stages, then in the last 16, then in the quarterfinals, and now we're in the semi-final. And he said, we've got nothing to lose. And he's right, to be fair. So I think he can cause them a lot of trouble. And the other thing, quickly, he knows Virgil van Dijk so well because they're obviously national team teammates. So, I don't know if you're Virgil. I'm saying for Danjuma, would you rather play against a striker that doesn't know you as well as someone like Danjuma, who trains with you, who has trained with you so many times, who knows what you like, what you don't like, who's your friend, than playing against someone who has no idea what facing Virgil van Dijk is? And you know what? I would think that Virgil would rather not play someone who knows him as well as Danjuma does.
Goes both ways, though. If he's got a weakness in his game that Virgil's aware of.
Exactly.
Every now and then when you watch football, sometimes you'll come across a player who you don't know too much about, and he might do something in a game, or he might put in a performance that really makes you take note, or you then just start to follow his career. And I think the first time I properly watched Danjuma was in the group stages when Villarreal went to Old Trafford. And obviously I knew he had been at Bournemouth, and I knew he had a really good season there, but I wasn't expecting too much just because of the jump up from obviously the Championship to the Champions League is obviously so big. But on that night, it was honestly like watching Neymar and Mbappe combined. He tore Diogo Dalot, who was the right back on that night. He tore him to pieces, and he tore Man United to pieces all night. I don't know. I still don't really know how Man U came away with the win there, because they could have been 4-0 down before they even got started. But yeah, it was one of those performances where you sort of, he grabs your attention. You just want to track how he does in his career. So it will be fascinating to see how he gets on at Anfield. And obviously, as Julian said, he's going to be their key man. Even if he does play through the middle in Gerard Moreno's absence, I'd expect him to peel off to the left-hand side just to try and make use of all that space that Liverpool leave behind. And it's interesting, when you look at the problems Liverpool have faced on the counter-attack, Benfica gave them some problems in the last round. And I looked into the stats, and Villarreal and Benfica are 1 and 2 respectively for the most shots taken from counter-attacking opportunities. So Villarreal know exactly what they're going to be doing against Liverpool. And I before this game started, before I looked into it properly, I thought it would be a bit of a walkover. But since I've read into it and done more research, I'm actually not confident in Villarreal, but I think it's going to be more of a battle than people are expecting.
Thiago Silva's had a hell of a week. And from a statistics point of view, Josh, I'm sure you're excited at the prospect of this. He's had a sensational week with his performances against Everton and Manchester United. Extremely high accuracy and extremely high frequency. Is he going to be a massive factor in unlocking what we're expecting to be a low block? I'll start with you on this one, Josh.
For sure, definitely. I think if you look at the way Jurgen Klopp sort of transitioned this Liverpool side, he's gone from, I think he realised that the heavy metal style is, while it's so fun and great to watch, I don't think it's that sustainable over season after season after season, especially if you think players have been asked to play more games with less rest. It's hard to really play that sort of basketballs type football week in, week out. And I think the sign of Thiago was really Klopp acknowledging that and trying to transition to a more possession-based game. Not that they don't want to have those chaotic moments, but just when they know they can, they've got Thiago in their back pocket that can really control things. And if you're looking at the way Villarreal sort of played throughout the Champions League, they're happy to give away the possession. As Julian said, they can play in different ways. But against Liverpool, you'd expect Liverpool to have most of the possession. Thiago, he had over 100 passes against United, over 100 passes against Everton, and you're pretty much looking at more of the same in this game. And I think when he first signed for Liverpool, I think people had a few doubts over him just because of some of the tackles he made were a bit rash, a few bookings. But I think now we're really seeing his importance to the Liverpool side. I looked into his with and without record for Liverpool this season. I'll just read this out for you. He started 20 games this season. They've won 18. They've drawn 1. They've lost 1. They've scored 53 goals and conceded just 8. Without him, it's 34 games, 22 wins, 10 draws, 2 defeats, 81 goals scored, but 34 conceded. So you can see there's a massive swing in. They're obviously still winning, but they're shipping a lot more goals in the process. So he's not just key in breaking down a Villarreal side, but he's also key at the other end of the pitch as well.
Fantastic. I never understood the whole he slows them down narrative from the first season. I mean, he had the injuries. It was a team that was not functioning for different reasons that we need another show for. But he's a wonderful player, and he would be the key, because if he can find that pass that will break them down, then I think Liverpool are onto something great. On the other hand, if he can't play because Capu is on him the whole time, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of man marking on Thiago. Not man marking purely like old school sense, but if they were finding a way to always have at least 2 guys on him or cutting all the passing angles from him to be able to limit his influence on the game, then I think Villarreal will be onto something good, because it's not Fabinho or it's not Keita or Henderson, even worse. I'm not a fan. Who will, I think, do that? So if you keep Thiago quiet, then obviously Liverpool is not as strong as what they would be if he was on fire like before.
Jordan Henderson was on the bench at the weekend, and I would suspect that he'll probably come back into the team. I can't imagine.
No, please.
I know.
He will.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but if he replaces Naby Keita in the team, then there's going to be even more pressure on Thiago to do that, because Henderson, that's obviously not really his game. Keita can obviously do that, but I would be surprised if Klopp benched Henderson for 2 big games in a row.
Maybe you're right. I'm just not the biggest fan. I just think that, and we saw against City where it doesn't bring enough, I think, to a game of his quality. I know he has qualities and he runs and he's the leader, whatever. But with the ball, it's not good enough in those kind of games. So I want a Thiago, Fabinho, Keita midfield 3. But maybe you're right. Maybe Henderson's going to.
I completely agree with you, but I just think the way it'll go, the rotation.
Okay, so you might be able to stop Thiago, and that's a big might, because United and Everton didn't. But the front 3, I don't think you are going to stop that. And I think Diaz, particularly, he could have a lot to say, not just in this tie, but I think potentially for the rest of their cup run.
Yeah, as a Manchester United fan, what pains me the most about Liverpool is just how good their recruitment has been for a number of years now. I think you only need to watch Luis Diaz for about 5 seconds, and you can see he's a nailed-on Liverpool Jurgen Klopp player. He looks every bit of what Sadio Mane was when he first joined Liverpool. He's got that tenacity. He's got that direct running. He's deceptively quick. He's brave. And you saw his first touch against Everton in his first ever Merseyside derby was to bring the ball out of the air with his leg behind his other leg, like controlling it with his heel. It's just incredible. Then he went straight past Seamus Coleman. He's been an incredible signing. I think it's just so impressive, really, how quickly he's settled and just looks every bit a Liverpool player.
I mean, the only problem, if you're Klopp, the only problem you have is you go like, okay, who do I pick tomorrow? Or who do I pick tonight? Do you go with, and we've been even see Jota playing now on the left to leave Sadio Mane as the new number 9, if you want. And he's doing that so well. Mane in that position. I mean, the reverse pass for Salah against United was out of this world. Even a pass that I'm not sure how many of us thought that Mane was capable, not that he was not capable, but that he could see the timing would be right, the precision, all of that, and he just went like this, easy peasy, like it was crazy. So if you're Klopp, who do you pick? Do you pick Diaz and you think, okay, Diaz against Foyth, this is an asset for Liverpool, the other side, Salah is there. Who do you play centrally? Do you keep Mane? Do you play Jota just for the finishing touch? Do you play Firmino to sort of drop a bit deeper and sort of cause problems to the way Villarreal are going to be set up even if Firmino is fit enough to start and try to disturb the sort of defensive machine that you expect Villarreal to put together for that game on Wednesday night? I really don't know. I would think that Salah, Mane, Diaz looks quite nailed on, but you've got so many options if you're Klopp that at times it might be a bit of a headache, I think.
Yeah, I just find it annoying that Tottenham first put that interest into Luis Diaz, because I don't think he would be a Liverpool player right now if they hadn't shown that interest in January.
Anyway, Unai Emery doing all right, isn't he, I guess? Do we think he's going to stick around long term at Villarreal, or do you think there's going to be some interest from others in the Premier League for him?
We saw Newcastle, didn't we? Before Eddie Howe, he was the first choice. I think the discussions went not super far, but far enough. And Igor, his brother, was quite involved. The thing is, let's be honest here. He's a fantastic manager. And Danjuma said it again. He said he's very special at training every day. It's fantastic to work with someone like that. And he said he's got a plan for every game. And it doesn't always work. But if we execute it well, usually it tends to work. But it works much better in Spain. Let's be clear about that. And it's not me taking anything away from him, but Sevilla and Villarreal, for reasons that are pretty obvious, the sort of the size of the club, the family aspect of it, the fact that it's in Spain, the language, the culture, everything you want, the recruitment, and his partnership with whoever the sporting director is or was before works much better for him than when he's in a top club like PSG, like Arsenal, with all the pressure in a different country where he doesn't really know the culture and needs to adapt so much that I think he loses a bit of what makes him so special. So, of course, there's always going to be interest from other leagues and other clubs, but I'm not sure how much he's ready right now to give up what he's building at Villarreal, which is pretty good. Europa League winners last season, last 4 of the Champions League this season. Okay, in the league, he hasn't been great because I don't think they could have played in both competitions as well as they did in the Champions League. But I don't think he's ready to leave that just now. I might be wrong, though.
Villarreal is an interesting sort of squad in general, I think. If you look down their squad list, they've got quite a few players who didn't really hit it off in the Premier League. We actually looked into, we could actually build, a whole first 11 of former English or Premier League players just from the Villarreal squad. So I'll read it out. We've got Rulli, the goalkeeper, obviously. He was once of Manchester City. A back four of Serge Aurier, Juan Foyth, Vicente Iborra and Pervis Estupinan. Estupinan was sold by Watford in the summer after a loan spell in Spain. In midfield, you've got Lo Celso, Coquelin, Parejo, who somehow played for QPR.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
With Capu and Alberto Moreno. And then up front, you've got Danjuma, who was obviously a success. But that's like an entire 11 of Villarreal players that have once played at the Premier League or in England and didn't really fare too well. But it obviously just proves that, I guess, people are obviously quick to write people off, whether it's a footballer or a manager, just because they didn't succeed at one club or in one particular league. But obviously, they can be successes elsewhere. And I think that's exactly what Unai Emery has done with all of these Villarreal players. As Julian said, to win the Europa League last season was a great achievement, but to go to the last 4 of the Champions League, beating Juventus, beating Bayern Munich, coming out of the group with Manchester United, I mean, it's a crazy run. And obviously, they seem ultra confident that they can go one step further here. And I think what's key as well for Villarreal is that they didn't have a game at the weekend. So they've literally had over a week to drill in the tactics they need for this game. So they really couldn't be any better prepared.
Josh, what's our team? What's our five-a-side team for this week? Well,
the WhoScored team, we've mentioned a couple of the players already. We've got Juan Foyth to make 3+ tackles. Obviously, I think he's going to be up against Luis Diaz this season, on Wednesday night, He's completed at least 10 more tackles than anyone else that's still left in the Champions League. And this is weird. He's made up 21% of the tackles Villarreal have made in general in the Champions League this season. So he's been a bit of a machine for them at right back. We've got Etienne Capu to be carded, as Julian touched on earlier. We could see him perhaps given the task of following Thiago around. He's their most booked player this season. And we've got Thiago, as we said, the pass master. We've got him to make at least 90 passes in the game. As I said, over 100 against both Everton and United. And then the last 2, we've got Luis Diaz to have 2+ shots. He's had 33 shots across his last 11 starts for Liverpool. And even though Villarreal were defensively strong, obviously, in the last 2 games in the Champions League, they did concede 45 shots to Bayern. So there's going to be a lot of joy at times for Liverpool. And then we've got Danjuma to have 1+ shot. You have to go back to November for the last time he didn't have a shot in a game. And he's had at least one in every Champions League game this season. So, yeah, that's our team. You two have got teams as well that I'm sure you'll want to reveal.
What's the terms before we do our teams? What's the terms?
Yeah. So the terms is for this league again, for our special league, there's over £1,000 in cash prizes to be won, including £500 to the winner. And there's free bets for anyone that finishes in the top 25% of the leaderboard. All you have to do is select your lineup, place a minimum £1 bet and enter via our official league, which you can find the link of in the description of this video. The winning bets will be ranked from longest odds to shortest, while all non-winning bets are ranked by a percentage of the bet that lands. So you don't even have to have all 5 selections come in and you can still have a chance of winning. But yeah, now I'll pass the floor over to you two for your 2 teams.
Well, Julian, give us your team.
Okay, so this is my debut here, okay? So, I've spent a lot of time on it. I focus. You said I was not bold enough, but I'll explain the choices. So I've got Rulli to concede at least 2 goals because I think as good as Villarreal have been, I think you go to Anfield and I think you would be under pressure, and I can easily see Liverpool scoring at least 2 goals. Juan Foyth is one of Josh pick. It's also my pick, but to be yellow carded. I think he got a yellow card in the Bayern Munich second leg as well, and I fancy Luis Diaz giving him such a tough time that I could easily see a yellow card coming up. Trent with an assist. I know this is nothing special, but still. Fabinho, at least 2 tackles. Again, I think what we didn't see from Bayern, especially on the goal they conceded in the second leg, is someone really protecting their back four against the quick transition from Villarreal, which we expect will be quite a lot, or they're going to try to do it very often in that first leg on Wednesday. So Fabinho will be very important to cut those offensive transitions from Villarreal. So I expect at least 2 tackles from him. And then the pass master, Thiago. But I went for 80 plus passes. Josh did 90. I think that there would be a Thiago plan from Villarreal to limit his influence. So I went for 80 and not 90. But now I feel weak. I feel really weak.
What was the odds on yours, Julian?
14-1 yours were, Julian. And ours were 12.
Pathetic. Right. Here's what Steve's going for. So, Van Dijk, 80 passes. I agree with what you're all saying about there's probably some sort of a plan for Thiago. And I wobbled on Thiago because I thought, actually, I could really see him going with Henderson instead and going with a way more functional midfield, probably because he's expecting the possession. So I was trying to think outside the box a little bit. So I went with Van Dijk to get 80 passes.
Okay.
I went with Mo Salah to have 4 shots because I think he'll probably have a few sighters from range. It's not obviously not to score 4 goals, but I think he'll probably get a lot of the ball and I can see him getting some shots off. I went with Parejo to be carded because he's going to get carded. I went with Trent for an assist, which is not the craziest bet in the world ever. And seeing as though we just spent half the show talking about him, I went with Diaz as an anytime goal scorer. And that's coming in at a well worth your money, 45-1.
It does sound good, to be fair.
That sounds good.
None of them are crazy, are they? They're not wild. They're not like some crazy person in the woods has come up with these. There's logic in all of those.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, there is.
I can see it.
There is. I can see it too. But mine is going to win. So.
All right. Cheers for tuning in. If you'd like to get involved, then check the link in the description. As always, please be gamble aware and make sure you're over 18 if you are going to get involved. And cheers for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe. We'll see you afterwards.